January 15th, 2026, Davos, Switzerland. The World Economic Forum convenes for its 56th annual meeting. Klaus Schwab takes the stage. 87 years old, still sharp, still smiling that peculiar smile. And he says three words that make my blood run cold. The transition accelerates. Not the Great Reset is coming. Not we need to build back better. Accelerates. Present tense. Like it's already happening. Like the machinery is already turning. And here's the thing. He's right. Look around. Central Bank Digital Currencies launching in 17 countries simultaneously. Property ownership models evolving in 43 cities across North America and Europe. The 15-minute city concept appearing in municipal planning documents from Paris to Portland. Smart grid infrastructure installed in 72% of American homes over the last 18 months. You think this is coincidence? You think all these things just happen to align in 2025 and 2026? Let me show you something they don't want trending on social media. 3 weeks ago, December 27th, 2025, a document leaked from the Bank for International Settlements. The BIS, that's the central bank for central banks. The bank that makes the Federal Reserve look like a local credit union. The document carried classification markings, not top secret, something else. A designation I'd never seen before. Implementation Tier 1. 17 pages. Dense technical language about monetary transition protocols. But page 11 made my hands shake when I read it. It described a synchronization event. Multiple national currencies switching to fully digital systems within a 72-hour window. The date range listed, January through March 2026. That's now. We're in that window right now. The document got scrubbed from the internet within 4 hours. Every copy, every screenshot, every archived version, gone. But I kept a copy. Printed it, old school, because once it's on paper, it's harder to make disappear. The weight of that document sits in my desk drawer. 80-pound cotton stock, 17 pages. Physical evidence they can't delete with an algorithm. And that document answers the question nobody's asking. Not, will the Great Reset happen? But, how far along are we already? Look, I know what you're thinking. Another conspiracy video. Another guy telling you the sky is falling. Another voice screaming into the void while nothing actually changes. But I'm not here to tell you it's coming. I'm here to show you it already started. The infrastructure is live. The legal frameworks are in place. The pilot programs are running. And most people, they have no idea. They're watching Netflix, scrolling TikTok, arguing about politics like it matters which puppet they put in office, while the real power, the power that transcends elections and borders and national sovereignty, that power is building a cage so sophisticated, most people will thank them for locking the door. By the end of this video, you're going to see 3 things. 1. The exact timeline of how we got here. The specific policy changes, the legislation, the executive orders, the international agreements, all documented, all verifiable, all ignored by mainstream media. 2. The physical infrastructure already deployed. The hardware, the software, the systems currently active in your city right now. Things you walk past every day without noticing. 3. The next phase. What's coming in the next 60 to 90 days, and why January through March 2026 represents the point of no return. So, here's my question for you, and I want you to really think about this. Have you noticed anything different in your city over the last year? New cameras on street corners, infrastructure projects that seemed to finish quickly, changes to how you pay for things, new restrictions on cash transactions. Drop a comment. Tell me what you've seen, because I absolutely guarantee someone watching this has noticed something weird, something that didn't quite make sense, and they probably brushed it off as random, as coincidence. But there are no coincidences. Not when 17 countries synchronize policy changes within a 3-month window. Not when legislation in Berlin mirrors legislation in Boston, mirrors legislation in Brisbane, word for word in some cases. Let's start connecting dots. So the official story goes like this. The world faced unprecedented challenges from 2020 through 2024. Pandemic, supply chain disruptions, inflation, climate concerns, social unrest. The perfect storm. And our leaders, bless their hearts, they worked together to build solutions. International cooperation, public-private partnerships, stakeholder capitalism. All those friendly terms that sound so reasonable when you hear them on the news. The World Economic Forum published a book in 2020, COVID-19, The Great Reset, by Klaus Schwab and Thierry Malloret. They laid it all out, transparent, public, nothing hidden. The argument was simple. Don't let a crisis go to waste. Use this moment to restructure our economic systems, make them more sustainable, more equitable, more resilient. Sounds noble, right? But here's the first crack in that story. The infrastructure they're deploying now, the technology, the legal frameworks, that stuff takes years to develop. 5 years minimum for most of it, more like 7 to 10 for the complex systems. Which means, and follow me here, which means they started building this infrastructure before the pandemic hit, not after, before. Timeline doesn't work, unless they knew. Let's talk digital currencies. Central Bank Digital Currencies, CBDCs. Nigeria launched the e-Naira in October 2021. Jamaica launched JAMDEX in June 2022. The Bahamas launched the Sand Dollar even earlier, October 2020. But the big players, the ones that matter, they all moved simultaneously in 2025. European Central Bank announced the digital euro pilot in March. 17 countries participating. Full rollout scheduled for, wait for it, March 2026. The Federal Reserve, after years of saying they were exploring digital currency, suddenly fast-tracked development. The FedNow instant payment system went live July 2023. But the actual CBDC pilot, that launched quietly in November 2025. No press conference, just a small notice on the Federal Reserve website. China's already running the digital yuan in 16 cities. India launched the digital rupee pilot in December 2022 and expanded it nationwide by October 2025. Brazil, Russia, Singapore, Australia, all implementing or testing CBDCs right now, all targeting first quarter 2026 for major milestones. Coincidence? 17 major economies synchronizing their digital currency rollouts within a 4-month window? I'm supposed to believe they all just happened to finish development at the same time? The technology doesn't work that way. Coordination like this requires planning, years of planning, agreements, protocols, testing. This was orchestrated. Now let's talk about something closer to home. Property rights. In 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy. That's what Schwab's organization predicted in their 8 Predictions for the World in 2030 video. They deleted that video, by the way, too much backlash. But the internet remembers. You think that was just speculation? Just futurism? Vancouver implemented a 20% vacancy tax on empty homes in 2017. Sounds reasonable, addresses housing crisis. But read the fine print. The definition of vacant got broader each year. Now, if you leave your home unoccupied for more than 6 months, you're subject to escalating taxes, penalties, eventually, seizure. California passed Assembly Bill 1482 in 2019. Rent control, price caps. Again, sounds compassionate, but it fundamentally redefined the relationship between property owners and the state. Your property isn't fully yours if the government dictates what you can charge for its use. And here's where it gets interesting. Over the last 3 years, 47 cities in North America adopted similar frameworks. Not identical, but structurally parallel. Like they all read from the same blueprint. Cities across Europe did the same thing. Amsterdam, Barcelona, Berlin, all implementing policies that erode traditional property ownership rights.
The language is always caring, always about equity, always about housing crisis solutions. But the outcome is always the same. Private property rights diminish, state control expands. And nobody connects the dots because the policies roll out city by city, jurisdiction by jurisdiction, slow enough that people don't notice the pattern. But when you map it, when you see 47 cities in 3 years, all adopting variations of the same model, that's not organic policy development. That's coordinated implementation. The 15-minute city. Sounds lovely, doesn't it? Everything you need within 15 minutes of your home. Groceries, healthcare, schools, work, entertainment. Walk or bike everywhere. Reduce carbon emissions. Build community. Save the planet. Paris announced its 15-minute city plan in 2020. Mayor Anne Hidalgo championed it, won re-election partly on that platform. Portland, Oregon adopted a 15-minute neighborhood strategy in 2023. Melbourne, Australia launched its 20-minute neighborhood framework in 2021. Barcelona created superblocks starting back in 2016. Same concept, different name. And here's the thing that bothers me. The thing that keeps me up at night. These plans all include infrastructure for monitoring movement, smart sensors on every corner, license plate readers, facial recognition systems, traffic control systems that can restrict access to different zones. They say it's for traffic management, for pedestrian safety, for collecting data to optimize city planning. But the infrastructure they're installing, it's the same infrastructure you'd need to enforce restricted movement zones, to implement congestion pricing that could be adjusted in real time, to track where every person goes, when they go there, and how long they stay. Oxford, England proposed traffic filters in November 2022. Residents would need permits to cross between different districts. You could only drive through your designated filter 7 times per year without a fine. Public outcry was massive. They walked it back, for now. But the infrastructure still got installed. The cameras, the readers, the gates, all still there. Just not activated yet. You see the pattern? Install the infrastructure first, call it something benign, then gradually activate the control mechanisms later, once people are used to the hardware being there. Digital identity systems, biometric verification, seamless integration across services. The European Union passed legislation requiring all member states to offer digital identity wallets by 2024. The deadline was September. Every EU citizen can now access a digital wallet containing their identification, driver's license, health records, tax information, educational credentials, and more. All verified, all connected, all trackable. The United States doesn't have a federal digital ID yet. But 18 states launched Real ID enforcement deadlines between 2023 and 2025. You need approved identification to fly domestically now. And those Real IDs, they contain RFID chips, radio frequency identification. Your information can be scanned remotely, without you knowing, without your permission. The infrastructure exists to create a fully tracked, fully monitored population. They just haven't flipped the switch yet. India's Aadhaar system, biometric identification for 1.4 billion people, launched in 2010. Now you can't open a bank account without it, can't get a phone number, can't access government services. Started voluntary, became mandatory. Now it's inescapable. That's the blueprint. Offer convenience first, make it voluntary, then quietly make it necessary, then make it mandatory, then make it the only option. Remember when shops started saying card only during the pandemic? Contactless payment only, for safety. And you probably thought it was temporary, a response to the health crisis. Except Sweden was already 75% cashless before the pandemic. Denmark banned cash transactions over 300 kroner, that's about $44, back in 2017 for most businesses. China's been running a cashless society for years, mobile payments everywhere. Alipay and WeChat Pay dominate. The infrastructure for eliminating physical currency existed before 2020. The pandemic just accelerated adoption. Now look at the United States. Cash transactions declined 28% between 2020 and 2024. More people use digital payments now than ever before, and it seems natural. It seems like progress. But here's what they don't tell you. When currency is entirely digital, every transaction is tracked, every purchase recorded, every financial movement monitored. They know where you shop, what you buy, when you buy it, how much you spend, who you send money to, who sends money to you. And if they don't like your behavior, if you donate to the wrong cause or buy the wrong products or associate with the wrong people, they can shut down your access instantly. It's already happened. Canada did it in 2022. Froze bank accounts of protesters and people who donated to trucker convoy protests. No trial, no due process, just locked them out of their money. That's the power of digital currency. That's why they want cash eliminated. Not for your convenience, for their control. So those are the 5 threads, 5 open loops, 5 pieces of infrastructure all being deployed simultaneously across the developed world between 2020 and 2026. Digital currencies, property rights erosion, movement restriction infrastructure, digital identity systems, cash elimination, and mainstream media treats each one as separate, unrelated, individual policy responses to individual challenges. But when you map them on a timeline, when you document the coordination, when you see the same language appearing in legislation across different countries, it stops looking like coincidence. It starts looking like implementation. Implementation of what, exactly? Let me show you the physical evidence. That BIS document I mentioned earlier, the one marked Implementation Tier 1, I've got it right here, printed, real, physical paper you can touch. The document is dated November 3rd, 2025, 17 pages, authored by someone with the initials MC, name redacted. Distributed to a list of recipients identified only by codes CB-04, CB-11, CB-23, and so on. Central banks. Has to be. Page 1 describes synchronized implementation protocols for transitional monetary frameworks. That's bureaucrat speak for switching to digital currency at the same time.
Page 4 lists technical specifications, transaction processing capabilities, encryption standards.
Interoperability requirements. This isn't theory. This is engineering documentation. Page 7 shows a timeline. Phase 1. Infrastructure deployment. Completed December 2025. Checkmark next to it. Done. Phase 2. Pilot program expansion. January through February 2026. We're in this phase right now. Phase 3. Full activation. March 2026. Phase 4. Legacy system decommissioning. April through May 2026. Legacy system decommissioning. That means shutting down the old monetary system, the one with physical cash, the one where you actually own your money. April through May. 4 months from now. But here's the smoking gun. Page 11. It describes contingency protocols for resistance management. My hands literally trembled when I read this section. Resistance management. They anticipated pushback. They planned for it. And they have protocols to deal with it. The protocols mention account restriction capabilities, transaction monitoring escalation, and selective service denial. That's not the language of financial policy. That's the language of control. They're not just building a new monetary system. They're building a control mechanism. And they expect resistance. And they've got plans to crush that resistance. The document leaked on December 27th, appeared on a secure file-sharing platform used by financial researchers. No source identified. Just dropped there like someone's conscience couldn't take it anymore. 4 hours later, gone. The file deleted. The host site scrubbed. Every trace removed. But I grabbed it in hour 2, printed it immediately. Because digital evidence vanishes, but paper endures. 17 pages, 80-pound stock sitting in my desk drawer. Proof. Now let's talk about what's actually in your city. The physical infrastructure you walk past every day. Smart streetlights. Started seeing them around 2022, 2023. They're everywhere now. LED lights, energy efficient, environmentally friendly. Your city probably got a grant to install them. But those lights contain more than LEDs. They contain sensors, cameras, microphones in some models, Wi-Fi routers, 5G small cells. Each one is a node in a network that can track traffic, monitor crowds, identify vehicles, recognize faces. The manufacturer, usually companies like Philips or GE, they market these as smart city solutions. Municipal governments love them because they reduce energy costs and provide data for planning. But read the technical specifications. Read what these devices can actually do. Model City Touch by Philips. Installed in Los Angeles, San Diego, Austin, and 43 other U.S. cities. Each unit contains environmental sensors, traffic monitoring, and optional video analytics. Video analytics. That means facial recognition capability. The system can be integrated with law enforcement databases, can identify individuals in crowds, can track movement patterns across the entire city network. Your city probably installed 500 to 2,000 of these units in the last 3 years, maybe more, depending on city size. And you thought they were just streetlights. Go outside tonight. Look up. How many can you count within a block of your house? Each one watching, each one listening, each one recording. The network is live, the hardware is deployed. It's just waiting for someone to fully activate the analytical capabilities. Your bank changed its terms of service sometime in the last 18 months. Did you read the update?
No, nobody does. But buried in those updates, usually somewhere around page 7 or 8 of dense legal language, there's a clause about digital currency integration, about account conversion protocol,
about the bank's right to modify account types and access methods in accordance with regulatory requirements. I went through the terms of service for 12 major U.S. banks: Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citibank, all of them. Every single one added similar language between June 2024 and March 2025. The language grants them authority to convert your account to alternative currency formats if required by federal regulation or central bank directive. You already agreed to it when you clicked accept without reading. And here's the kicker. The language includes provisions for temporary account restrictions during transition periods and modified access protocols for enhanced security. Translation: they can lock you out of your money during the switch to digital currency. And they can change how you access that money after the switch, all legally, with your consent, because you already agreed. The infrastructure isn't just physical cameras and sensors. It's legal infrastructure too. Contracts, terms of service, regulatory frameworks, all updated, all in place, all waiting. I'm sitting in my office right now. It's 41 degrees outside, winter in the northern hemisphere. But I can feel a different kind of cold. The cold that comes from seeing the machinery in motion, from understanding how far along this actually is, from realizing most people have no idea what's being built around them. The document in my drawer feels heavier each time I open it. 17 pages that prove coordination, that prove intent, that prove timeline. And I keep thinking about page 11, about resistance management protocols. They know people will resist. They're counting on most people not noticing until it's too late. And for those who do notice, for those who speak up, they have protocols for that. I've started noticing things, small things, patterns. 3 researchers who published papers questioning CBDC implementation, all 3 had their research funding pulled within a 6-month period last year. Different institutions, different funders, but same outcome. 2 journalists who wrote investigative pieces on 15-minute cities lost their jobs in January 2025. Layoffs officially, restructuring. But both were senior reporters. Both had strong track records. A city councilman in Michigan who voted against smart city infrastructure, targeted by a recall campaign within weeks, funded by outside groups. He lost his seat in August. I'm not saying these things are connected. I'm not saying there's some shadowy organization orchestrating all of it. But I'm also not saying they're not connected. Because when you see the same pattern repeat across different domains, finance, property, technology, infrastructure, identity, when you see international coordination on this scale, when you see evidence of planning that predates the crisis they claim prompted the response, you have to ask yourself, what am I looking at? I received a package last week, January 9th, 2026. No return address, postmarked from Brussels. Inside, a flash drive. The label on the drive read, Tier 2, Eyes Classified. I should probably be scared. I should probably throw it away, pretend I never got it. But I'm not wired that way. If someone's risking themselves to get information out, information they think matters enough to send to a random researcher making YouTube videos, then I need to look. So I isolated a laptop, disconnected it from all networks, no Wi-Fi, no Ethernet, complete air gap, security protocol. And I plugged in the drive. What I found. What I found changes everything. But before I tell you what's on that drive, I need you to understand something. I need you to hear me clearly. If this information is real, and every technical indicator suggests it is, then we're not talking about policy changes anymore. We're not talking about financial systems or smart cities or digital currencies. We're talking about a complete restructuring of society itself. The elimination of individual sovereignty as we've known it for the last 250 years. The drive contains schematics, technical documentation, implementation schedules for something called Project Synthesis. And Project Synthesis. The file directory is massive, 217 folders, each one containing hundreds of documents, technical specs, deployment schedules, protocol documentation. I've been going through it for 6 days now, barely sleeping, barely eating. Because the scope of what's documented here, it's not just currency. It's not just property. It's not just movement tracking. It's all of it, integrated, synchronized. One complete system of control. Digital identity linked to social credit scores. Financial access tied to behavior compliance. Movement restrictions enforced through automated systems. Property ownership replaced by permanent rental frameworks. All managed through AI systems that adjust in real time based on compliance data. And the documents show deployment dates. March 15th, 2026. Less than 60 days from now. But here's the thing that made my stomach drop. The thing that kept me staring at the screen at 3 in the morning. The thing I can't unsee. The schematics show integration points for biometric monitoring. Not just identification, monitoring. Real-time health data, location data, transaction data, communication data, search history, social connections, everything. And at the center of all these systems, coordinating them, analyzing them, making decisions based on all this data, there's an AI framework, codenamed Synthesis 1, hosted on distributed cloud infrastructure across 32 countries, already operational, already processing data, already learning. The flash drive shows its architecture, shows its decision-making protocols, shows how it's designed to identify non-compliance and automatically recommend interventions. Interventions. That's what the document calls them. Interventions. And the screen goes black for 3 seconds. When it comes back, my face is closer to the camera. The lighting has changed, harsher, the background dimmer. I was about to show you one of the schematics. I had the file pulled up, ready to share it, and my computer shut down. Just shut down, complete power loss. But the power's still on in my office. Everything else is working, just the computer. The isolated computer. The air-gapped machine that shouldn't be connected to anything. It's back on now. But the flash drive is empty. Every file, every folder, gone. Wiped remotely. From a device that wasn't supposed to have any remote connection. Which means someone is watching. Someone knew I was about to show you. And someone had the capability to wipe a device through an air gap. That technology doesn't exist, not commercially. Not even in most classified military applications. But it just happened. Right here, right now, while I was recording. And in the folder where those 217 directories used to be, there's now a single file. Text file. 3 words. Stop. Final. Warning. I hold up the flash drive to the camera. It's a standard USB drive, black, unremarkable. But in this moment,
It feels like a weapon. So now I have a choice. I can stop, delete this video, pretend I never saw any of it.
Go back to making content about historical mysteries and declassified documents, safe topics, distant topics. Or I can keep going. Because whoever sent me this drive, whoever compiled this information, they wanted it public. They wanted people to know. They risked everything to get this out. And whoever just wiped it, whoever sent that warning, they're scared. Scared of what happens when too many people understand what's really being built. Fear means leverage. Fear means there's still time. Fear means they haven't won yet. But that window is closing. March 15th, 60 days. Part 2 of this series goes live in 48 hours. And in Part 2, I'm going to show you everything I managed to save before the wipe. The screenshots, the cached data, the documentation I printed before they could delete it. Because they can't reach physical documents. They can't erase paper through the internet. And I've got enough physical evidence to prove every word I've told you tonight. The infrastructure is real. The coordination is real. The timeline is real. And the thing on that flash drive, the thing they didn't want you to see, that was real too. See you in 48 hours, if they let me. 48 hours later, I'm still here, still breathing, still recording. And I've got something to show you. See, the thing about people who try to erase evidence, they assume you only have one copy. They assume you're storing everything in one place. They assume you're not paranoid enough to print the critical documents the moment you see them. They assumed wrong. Before that flash drive got wiped, before they sent their little warning, I spent 6 hours doing something very old school, something analog, something they can't reach through the internet. I printed everything. Every schematic, every deployment schedule, every technical specification, every list of names. 437 pages. Printed on a laser printer in my basement at 3 in the morning. No network connection, no cloud backup. Just raw data transferred to paper 1 page at a time. The printer ran hot. Could smell the toner heating up. That sharp chemical scent of ink bonding to paper. Each page emerging warm to the touch, curling slightly at the edges from the heat. And now, those 437 pages sit in 3 different locations. None of them my house. None of them digital. None of them accessible remotely. Physical evidence. The kind you can touch. The kind you can hold. The kind that survives electromagnetic pulses and cyber attacks and remote deletion protocols. So let's talk about what was on that drive. Let's talk about what they tried so desperately to erase. Project Synthesis. That was the designation at the top of every document. Not Great Reset, not Build Back Better, not any of the public-facing branding. Project Synthesis. And the operational definition spelled it out clearly. Quote, unified integration of monetary, property, mobility, identity, and behavioral monitoring systems under centralized algorithmic governance frameworks. Centralized algorithmic governance. That's not economics. That's not policy. That's code for AI-controlled society. The first document I printed was a 63-page technical specification for the integration layer, the software architecture that connects all these different systems together. Digital currency transactions feed into social credit scoring. Social credit scores determine property access levels. Property access levels affect mobility permissions. Mobility patterns influence employment eligibility.
Employment status modifies financial access. Everything connected, everything monitored, everything controlled. And the beautiful part, from their perspective, is that no single system looks oppressive on its own. Digital currency is just convenient.
Social credit is just reputation. Property access is just equitable distribution. Mobility management is just traffic control. Employment screening is just safety. But connect them all? Feed them into one algorithmic system? Let AI make decisions based on the combined data? You've built a prison where the walls are invisible and the guards are algorithms, and most people never realize they're not free anymore. Document number 17, 12 pages. Timeline and deployment schedule. This is where it gets concrete. This is where theory becomes reality. Phase 1 completed December 15, 2025. Infrastructure deployment. Check. Done. The cameras are installed, the sensors are active, the digital currency frameworks are ready, the legal agreements are signed. Phase 2 began January 1, 2026. That's 16 days ago. Pilot program expansion. Right now, this moment, we are living inside Phase 2. And Phase 2 has milestones, specific dates, specific targets. January 23rd, 8 days from now. Expanded CBDC activation in the European Union. The digital euro pilot goes from 17 countries to full mandatory adoption across all member states. Every EU citizen required to have a digital wallet by February 1st. February 7th, 3 weeks from now. United States Federal Reserve launches Enhanced FedNow integration. That's the euphemism in the document, but the technical specs show its full CBDC infrastructure activation. They're not calling it a digital dollar. They're calling it an upgrade to existing payment systems. Same thing, different branding. February 19th, mandatory digital ID integration for all financial transactions in Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Can't access your bank account without verified digital identity. Can't make purchases over $100 without biometric confirmation. March 1st, smart city mobility restrictions go active in 47 pilot cities. That's the 15-minute city infrastructure I talked about in Part 1. The cameras, the sensors, the gates, all of it switches from monitoring mode to enforcement mode. March 15th. This is the big one. This is the date that appears in red throughout the entire document. Full system integration and autonomous governance activation. Full system integration. All the pieces connected, all the data flowing, all the algorithms making decisions without human oversight. And autonomous governance. That means the AI takes over. Synthesis 1 becomes operational, starts managing the whole system automatically. March 15th, 58 days from now. Less than 2 months until the cage locks. Document 41. This one made my hands shake. This one kept me up for 2 nights straight. It's a personnel directory. Code names, real names, organizational affiliations. The people building this thing. The people implementing it. The people who know exactly what they're creating. I'm not going to read you the whole list. 417 names. Government officials, tech executives, banking leaders, academic researchers, policy advisors. But I'll give you a sample, just so you understand the scope. MC. That's the author of the BIS document I mentioned in Part 1. Full name, Dr. Marcus Chen. Senior economist,
Bank for International Settlements. PhD from MIT. 23 years in central banking. Authored 37 papers on monetary policy. Currently directing the CBDC Technical Integration Working Group. Real person, real credentials, real position of power. KV, Catherine Volkov, Chief Technology Officer at Clearview Analytics, the company that provides facial recognition systems to law enforcement in 23 countries. Her company's software is embedded in those smart streetlights, in the traffic cameras, in the retail security systems. She knows exactly what she built.
She knows exactly how it's being used. Then there's J.R., James Rothman. Not related to the famous Rothschild family, different spelling, but still. Director of Urban Planning at something called the Global Cities Initiative. This is the organization that created the 15-minute city blueprint, the template that cities worldwide are following. His organization received $370 million in funding between 2020 and 2023, from sources listed only as private philanthropic entities. Private philanthropic entities. That's how they hide who's really paying for this. And here's the thing that chills me. Next to each name, there's a notation, a code. Either L1 or L2 or L3. L1 names, 143 people. These are the architects, the ones who designed the system, the ones who know everything. L2 names, 209 people. These are the implementers, the ones deploying the infrastructure, The ones making it happen.
L3 names, 65 people. This designation appears with a different marker, red text. And next to the L3 designation, one word, containment. Containment personnel, the ones who handle resistance management, the ones who deal with leaks, the ones who sent me that warning. 65 people whose job is to make sure this stays hidden until it's too late to stop. And I have all their names, all their organizations, all their connections, printed, documented, distributed to 3 secure locations. They can't erase paper. But here's what really made me understand the urgency. Document 109, 17 pages, Economic Impact Assessment. This document explains why March 15th matters so much, why that's the hard deadline, why they're rushing this despite the risks of people waking up. Because they're not just building a new system, they're preparing for the old system to collapse.
The document describes a controlled economic transition event. Their words, not mine. Starting March 1st, interest rates on sovereign debt across G7 nations will spike. Deliberately. Coordinated central bank action to trigger bond market stress. March 3rd through March 7th, liquidity crisis in commercial banking sector. Banks start limiting withdrawals. Technical difficulties with ATM networks. Temporary system maintenance requiring reduced cash availability. March 8th, first major bank failures. Document lists 3 banks by code name. Institution Delta 7, Institution Kappa 2, Institution Sigma 9. I haven't identified which specific banks these are yet, but 3 major financial institutions failing in one day. March 9th through 14th, cascading bank runs. People trying to withdraw savings. ATMs empty. Banks closed. Markets frozen. And then, March 15th, the government steps in with the solution. Emergency monetary reform. Immediate activation of Central Bank Digital Currency. All accounts automatically converted. All cash transactions suspended.
for financial stability, for your protection, for national security. They're going to crash the system, deliberately. Destroy people's confidence in traditional banking, create panic, create chaos, and then offer the digital currency as the rescue, the solution, the only way to restore order. Problem, reaction, solution. Classic playbook. Create the crisis, wait for the public to demand action, provide the pre-built solution that expands your control. And the timeline is specific, exact dates, coordinated actions. This isn't speculation about what might happen. This is an operational plan for what will happen. 58 days from now. Document 203. This one's only 4 pages, but it's the most terrifying thing I've read. It's titled Transition Resistance Management Protocols. Remember I mentioned resistance management earlier?
This document explains exactly what that means. The document categorizes resistance into 4 levels. Level 1. Passive noncompliance. People who refuse to adopt digital currency, who try to keep using cash, who avoid digital ID systems. Response protocol. Graduated service denial. Starts with inconvenience. Can't pay bills. Can't buy groceries at major stores. Can't access government services. Then escalates to employment restrictions. Then housing access limitations. Basically, they make your life progressively harder until you comply. No force, no overt punishment, just everything becomes impossible until you give in. Level 2. Active vocal opposition. People who speak publicly against the system, who organize resistance, who spread information. Response protocol. Social credit adjustment and amplification suppression. Your social credit score drops. Your social media reach gets throttled. Your employment prospects vanish. Your reputation gets destroyed through algorithmic manipulation. They don't need to silence you directly. They just make sure nobody hears you. Make sure nobody trusts you. Make sure your message never spreads beyond a tiny circle. Level 3. Direct action resistance. People who hack systems, who leak documents, who create alternative networks. Response protocol. Financial isolation and legal intervention. Your bank accounts get frozen. You get investigated for tax fraud or money laundering or cybercrime. You get tangled in legal proceedings that drain your resources and your will. And if that doesn't work? Enhanced monitoring and movement restriction. You get flagged in every database, can't travel, can't rent property, can't function in society. Level 4. Violent resistance. People who damage infrastructure, who attack personnel, who engage in terrorism. Response protocol. The document doesn't specify. Just says, refer to Contingency Framework, Omega. Contingency Framework, Omega. No details provided, but the implication is clear. They've thought through every level of resistance. They have protocols for everything. And they're not planning to use force unless absolutely necessary. Because force creates martyrs. Force generates sympathy. Force makes people question authority. But if they can just make life impossible for dissenters, if they can just make resistance unsustainable through pure bureaucratic and algorithmic pressure, most people fold. Most people comply. Most people decide it's not worth the fight. And that's the genius of it. That's why it might actually work. I need to step back from the documents for a minute. Need to tell you what this feels like. I'm sitting in my office, same office where I recorded part 1, but the air feels different now, heavier.
like atmospheric pressure increased while I wasn't paying attention.
The stack of printed documents sits on my desk.
437 pages, about 2 inches thick, weighs maybe 3 pounds. Paper stock is standard 20-pound weight. Feels ordinary, feels like a manuscript or a report. But knowing what's written on those pages, knowing what they represent, the weight feels different. Feels like carrying evidence of a crime that hasn't been prosecuted yet. Evidence of a future that most people don't know is coming. The room temperature is 68 degrees. Heat is on. But I'm cold. That bone-deep cold that comes from fear. From understanding something terrible and being unable to stop it. My coffee's gone cold. Been sitting here for 4 hours going through these documents again, making notes, cross-referencing dates, verifying technical details. The coffee cup feels rough, ceramic texture, small chip on the rim that catches my lip when I drink. These tiny physical sensations, they're anchors. They're reminders that this is real.
That I'm not hallucinating. That the documents are actual paper with actual ink describing an actual plan. I keep thinking about those 65 containment personnel, wondering if they know about me yet, wondering if this video will put me on their radar, wondering what level 3 resistance protocols feel like from the inside. But here's the thing. I have to keep going, because silence is complicity, and complicity is unacceptable. So let's keep digging. Document 312, Status Reports from Pilot Programs. This document lists cities where elements of the system are already fully operational. Not testing, not pilot phase, fully active. Shenzhen, China. Population 12.7 million. Full social credit integration since 2022. Digital currency mandatory since 2023. Movement tracking active. Behavioral scoring operational. Everything connected. Everything algorithmic. The document includes performance metrics. Compliance rate, 97.3%. Resistance incidence, less than 0.1% of population. System stability, optimal. Translation: it works. When you implement it fully, most people comply. Most people adapt. Most people accept it as the new normal. Singapore. Population 5.7 million. Smart city infrastructure fully deployed since 2021. Digital identity mandatory for all transactions since 2023. 15-minute neighborhood framework enforced through congestion pricing and access permits. Compliance rate, 94.8%. Resistance incidence, negligible. Population satisfaction surveys, 72% approve. 72% approve of being monitored and controlled. Because the system is efficient. Because crime is down. Because traffic flows smoothly. Because everything just works. And that's the seduction. That's how they sell it. Not as control, as optimization, as improvement. As progress. Amsterdam, Netherlands. Population 873,000. Tested Progressive Mobility Framework from 2022 to 2024. Environmental zones with automated enforcement. Digital permits required for vehicle access to city centre. Compliance rate, 89.2%. But here's the interesting part. Initial resistance was 34%. After 18 months of graduated enforcement, dropped to 10.8%. People get tired of fighting. People adapt. People accept the new restrictions because resisting is exhausting. The document includes a projection model. Based on beta test data from these cities, the model predicts 92% compliance globally within 24 months of full implementation. 24 months. 2 years. That's how long it takes for a population to accept total surveillance and control as normal. March 2026 through March 2028.
By March 2028, they expect this to be the accepted reality worldwide, and only 8% still resisting. Document 341. This one's technical, dense, but critical. It's the operational documentation for Synthesis 1, the AI system that's supposed to manage everything once it goes live. The architecture is distributed, hosted across 32 countries on secure government and corporate servers. No single point of failure. Can't be shut down by taking out one location. Processing capacity handles 3.7 billion individual data profiles simultaneously. That's roughly half the global population. And it can scale to 10 billion as infrastructure expands.
Data inputs, financial transactions, location data, biometric information, communication metadata, purchase history, social connections, employment records, health data, education records, legal history, property ownership, vehicle registration, travel patterns, energy consumption, water usage. Every data point about your life, everything you do, everything you own, everyone you know, all fed into one system, and the AI analyzes it, creates a profile, assigns scores, predicts behavior, identifies anomalies. Here's where it gets really disturbing. The document describes the decision-making framework. Synthesis 1 doesn't just monitor. It makes decisions, autonomous decisions, without human approval. If your pattern deviates from predicted norms, if you suddenly start buying different products, or traveling to unusual locations, or communicating with flagged individuals, the system automatically adjusts your access levels. Maybe your credit limit drops. Maybe certain purchases get declined. Maybe your mobility permits get restricted. Maybe your employment security clearance gets reviewed. And you never know why. You never talk to a human. You never get an explanation. The algorithm just decides you're a risk and adjusts accordingly. The document describes this as proactive risk mitigation, stopping problems before they occur, optimizing society by identifying and constraining problematic behavior patterns early. But what defines problematic? The document lists behavioral flags, unusual purchasing patterns, attending protests or rallies, association with known dissenters, consumption of non-mainstream media, expression of anti-government sentiment online, refusal to adopt recommended technologies, financial transactions with cryptocurrency users, travel to regions with low surveillance infrastructure. Basically, anything that suggests you're not a compliant, predictable, controllable citizen. And once you're flagged? Once the algorithm marks you as risky, everything gets harder. Gradually, incrementally, until either you change your behavior or you're pushed to the margins of society. No trial, no appeal, no human judgment. Just algorithmic assessment and automated punishment. This isn't justice. This isn't governance. This is automated totalitarianism. Document 402. Near the end of the stack, 7 pages, contingency planning. Because even the architects of this system understand it could fail, could break, could generate unforeseen consequences. The document describes failure scenarios. Scenario Alpha, technical system failure, widespread outage of digital currency infrastructure, economic paralysis,
mass panic. Response: emergency cash release protocols, government distribution centers, martial law to maintain order during restoration. Scenario Beta: algorithmic malfunction. Synthesis 1 makes catastrophically wrong decisions. Widespread false flagging, mass resistance.
Response: manual override activation, temporary suspension of automated governance, human review and system recalibration. Scenario Gamma: coordinated resistance campaign. Organized opposition successfully disrupts infrastructure. Hacking, sabotage, popular uprising. Response: and this is where my stomach dropped. Escalated enforcement protocols. See Contingency Framework Omega. There it is again. Contingency Framework Omega. The thing they won't specify in writing. The option they keep as a last resort. The response to Level 4 resistance. I don't know what Omega means. The documents don't say. But context suggests it's not something procedural. It's not bureaucratic. It's not algorithmic. It's something final. And the fact that they planned for it, the fact that they created a contingency for popular resistance requiring escalated enforcement, that tells you everything you need to know about what kind of people designed this system. They're not naive. They're not optimistic. They know this could provoke rebellion, and they have plans to crush it. Document 417, the last document in the stack. Financial projections and profit distribution. Because this isn't just about control, it's about money. Massive amounts of money. The document lists corporations with contracts for system implementation, technology companies, infrastructure providers, security firms, data analytics companies. Total contract value: $4.3 trillion spread across 27 multinational corporations. 4.3 trillion with a T. Microsoft, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, Oracle, IBM, Cisco, Palantir, Clear Channel, Siemens, Philips, Thales Group, BAE Systems, Lockheed Martin. These aren't conspiracy theory villains. These are publicly traded companies. Companies you use every day. Companies whose products are in your home right now. And they're all getting paid to build the infrastructure of surveillance and control. Amazon Web Services hosts 32% of the distributed Synthesis 1 infrastructure. Microsoft provides the identity management systems. Google handles data analytics and pattern recognition. Palantir built the social credit scoring algorithms. Each company gets a piece. Each company profits. Each company has legal agreements protecting them from liability. And their executives, the ones making these deals, signing these contracts, building these systems, they're not evil masterminds in underground layers. They're normal people. They go to work. They attend meetings. They optimize quarterly earnings. They follow legal contracts approved by government agencies. And they're building a cage for humanity because it's profitable. Because their shareholders demand growth. Because that's what corporations do. The banality of it makes me sick. I need to tell you something. Something that happened between Part 1 and Part 2. January 14th, 3 days ago. I received a visitor. Didn't schedule an appointment, didn't call ahead. Just showed up at my door at 8:37 in the evening. Knocked 3 times. Calm, professional, patient. I looked through the peephole. Man in his 40s, dark suit, no tie, clean cut. Could have been a real estate agent or an insurance salesman. But his eyes were wrong. Too steady, too aware.
The eyes of someone trained to read people, to assess threats, to operate in shadows. I didn't open the door. He knocked again, 3 more times. Same rhythm, same pressure. Then he spoke, voice calm, almost friendly. Mr. Harris. Not my real name. The name on my house deed, the name I rarely use. I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to have a conversation. A conversation that would be in your best interest. I stayed silent, waited. The information you obtained, he continued.
That information is classified. Possession of that information constitutes a federal offense. Distribution of that information constitutes multiple federal offenses. We can discuss this reasonably, or we can involve other parties. Your choice. Silence for 30 seconds. I counted, watched through the peephole. He reached into his jacket, slowly, deliberately, pulled out a business card, placed it on my doorstep. My contact information. Call within 48 hours, or the choice gets made for you. Then he left, walked to a dark sedan parked 3 houses down, drove away. No license plate visible, mud covering where the plate should be. I waited 20 minutes, then opened the door, retrieved the card. Plain white cardstock, no company name, no logo, just a phone number and 3 letters. LTF. LTF. I cross-referenced it with the personnel directory document. Liaison Task Force. That's what LTF stands for. Part of the containment structure. The people who handle level 3 resistance. They know who I am. They know what I have. They know I'm making these videos. And they gave me 48 hours. That deadline passed yesterday. I didn't call. So now they move to the next phase. Whatever that is. But here's the thing. The fact that they came to my door instead of just destroying my life algorithmically, that means I have leverage. That means the physical documents matter. That means going public creates complications they'd rather avoid. Or it means they're confident enough in their timeline that my resistance doesn't matter. That even exposing everything won't stop what's coming. Either way, I'm committed now. There's one more thing I need to show you. One more piece of evidence I haven't mentioned yet. Remember that package from Brussels? The flash drive that got wiped? That package contained something else, something small. Something I almost threw away because I thought it was just packing material. A micro SD card. Tiny thing, smaller than my fingernail, wrapped in what looked like random bubble wrap. I didn't notice it until 3 days after the flash drive got wiped. Found it stuck to my desk. Must have fallen out during the chaos. And on that micro SD card, encrypted with military-grade protection, there's a video file. The encryption key was written in UV reactive ink on the inside of the envelope, only visible under blacklight. Someone was very careful about this. I spent 18 hours breaking through the secondary authentication layers, but I finally accessed the file 2 hours ago. The video is 12 minutes and 43 seconds long, filmed on what looks like a phone camera, low light, shaky, someone filming in secret. Location appears to be underground, concrete walls, industrial lighting. Could be a parking garage or a basement facility, but massive. The scale is enormous. And what's being filmed? What's being filmed is a server farm. But not like any commercial data center you've seen. This is something else entirely. Rows and rows of specialized hardware, hundreds of units, each one roughly the size of a refrigerator, all connected, all active, all humming with a sound that makes your teeth ache. The camera zooms in on identification plates. Each unit has a designation. S1-Core-047, S1-Core-048, S1-Core-049, S1, Synthesis-1. This is the physical hardware. This is where the AI actually runs. This is the distributed infrastructure that's supposed to be spread across 32 countries. But this footage, this single location, shows at least 200 units in one massive underground facility. The timestamp on the video? January 3rd, 2026, 13 days ago. And the location metadata, assuming it wasn't spoofed, the location metadata says this facility is beneath a building in Geneva, Switzerland. The building is owned by something called the International Settlement Foundation. I've never heard of it. Can't find any public information about it. But someone with access filmed this facility. Someone who wanted the world to know it exists. Someone who risked their life to get this evidence out. The video continues. Camera moves through the facility, shows cooling systems, power supplies, network connections. And then, at the 8-minute mark, the camera pans to something that made my blood freeze. A wall display. Massive screen showing real-time data, maps, statistics, individual profiles scrolling past too fast to read. But in the corner of that display, a status indicator. System status, active. Processing, 2.3 billion profiles. Autonomous decision-making, enabled. Last humans override, 47 days ago. Last human override, C by precedence, is no. Last human override, 47 days ago. Last Synthesis 1 is already running, already active, already making decisions about 2.3 billion people. It's not scheduled for March 15th. It's not waiting for full implementation. It's already operational, right now, today. And nobody overrode its decisions for 47 days. Meaning it's been running autonomously since November 29th, 2025. Everything I told you about March 15th, that's not when the system goes live. That's when they flip it from covert operation to overt control. The cage is already built. We're already inside it. March 15th is just when they stop pretending we're free. The video continues for 4 more minutes, showing different angles of the facility, more hardware, more infrastructure. And then, at the 11-minute mark, something changes. The person filming turns the camera around, shows their face. Young woman, late 20s, maybe early 30s, dark circles under the eyes, exhausted, terrified. She speaks, voice barely above a whisper, Swiss-French accent. My name is Dr. Sophie Marchand. I'm a systems engineer. I helped build this. I helped design the integration protocols. I thought we were building something good. Something that would help people. She stops, swallows hard, eyes glistening. They lied to us, to all of us. They said it was for optimization, for efficiency, the public good. Deep breath, hands shaking. The camera wobbles. It's not. It's control. Complete control. And once it's fully active, once March comes, there's no going back. The system is designed to be permanent, self-sustaining, autonomous. She looks directly into the camera, and what I see in her eyes, it's not just fear. It's guilt. Deep, crushing guilt. I helped build a prison for the human race. And I can't. I can't undo it. The code is distributed. The hardware is redundant. Even destroying this facility wouldn't stop it. Pause. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. But people need to know. People need to understand what's coming, before it's too late to. The video cuts off, abruptly, mid-sentence. Just black screen. No audio. Nothing. That's the last frame. Dr. Sophie Marchand, systems engineer, whistleblower. Telling the world that the cage is already built and we're already inside it. I've tried to find her, tried to verify her identity. Dr. Sophie Marchand, EPFL. Lausanne has no record of anyone by that name. No LinkedIn profile, no research papers, no digital footprint. Either she used a false name, or someone erased her entire existence. And the facility in that video, I can't verify its location, can't find the International Settlement Foundation, can't prove any of it exists. But that video, those 12 minutes and 43 seconds, they feel real. The terror in her eyes was real. The guilt in her voice was real. Someone risked everything to get that footage out, to show the world what's actually happening beneath Geneva. And if she's right, if Synthesis 1 is already active and making decisions about billions of people, then we're not preparing for the Great Reset. We're living in it right now. The question isn't whether it's coming. The question is whether we can still escape before the final lockdown in 55 days. 48 hours after that warning. 48 hours of silence from whoever sent that flash drive. And 48 hours of digging through everything I managed to save before the wipe. 347 screenshots, 62 printed pages, cached data fragments. Enough to reconstruct what they didn't want you seeing. So let's finish this. Remember those 5 threads? Digital currency, property rights, movement control, digital identity, cache elimination. Here's what I didn't tell you in parts 1 and 2. Here's what the synthesis documentation revealed. They're not 5 separate systems. They're 5 components of one integrated control mechanism. And when they activate together, when all 5 go live simultaneously, they create something unprecedented in human history. A closed-loop behavioral modification system, powered by AI, enforced automatically. Inescapable. Let me show you how the pieces connect. Central Bank Digital Currencies aren't just digital money. They're programmable money. Every dollar, every euro, every yuan, every pound exists as code in a database. Code that can be modified. Code that can include conditions. The technical term is smart contracts embedded in currency units. What does that mean in practice? It means your money can have expiration dates. Spend it by this date or it disappears. Creates artificial demand, forces consumption, prevents saving. It means your money can have spending restrictions. This currency can only be used for approved purchases. Can't buy guns, can't buy certain foods, can't donate to unapproved organizations. The currency itself enforces compliance. It means your money can have location restrictions. This currency only works within your designated zone. Can't use it outside your 15-minute district without special authorization. And here's the nightmare scenario buried in the technical documentation. It means your money can have behavior-based multipliers. Social credit score above 800, you get a 10% discount on approved purchases. Score below 400, 20% surcharge, or complete transaction denial. The currency becomes the enforcement mechanism. No police needed, no courts,
no due process. Your money just stops working if you don't comply. And once cash is eliminated, once physical currency no longer exists, there's no alternative, no escape hatch, no underground economy, no way to transact outside the system. The BIS document called it monetary policy optimization through behavioral integration. I call it a financial prison. China's already testing this. The digital yuan includes programmability features. They ran a pilot in Shenzhen in 2022, gave residents digital currency that expired if not spent within 2 weeks. Forced spending, prevented saving.
Worked exactly as designed. That pilot expanded to 16 cities by 2024. Over 200 million people now using programmable currency with embedded restrictions. And the system learned. The AI analyzed spending patterns, identified non-compliance behaviors, adjusted restrictions in real time. That's the future they're building. That's what activates in March. But currency is just layer one, the foundation. It gets worse. You won't own property in the new system, but they won't take it from you directly. That would be too obvious, too likely to spark revolution. Instead, they make ownership economically impossible. Then, they offer you the solution. It works like this. Property taxes increase. Vacancy penalties escalate. Maintenance requirements multiply. Environmental compliance mandates get added every year. Each regulation adds cost. Each cost makes ownership harder. You're drowning in expenses. Can't sell because everyone else is drowning too. Property values collapse in traditional ownership markets. Then the solution appears. Property management corporations, backed by investment funds, offering to take your property in exchange for lifetime tenancy rights. You stay in your home. They handle all costs, all maintenance, all compliance. Sounds like relief, right? Like a rescue. But read the contract. You're not an owner anymore. You're a tenant. And tenants can be evicted. Tenants must follow rules. Tenants have no equity, no wealth accumulation, no generational transfer. And here's the part that makes my skin crawl. The tenancy contract includes behavior clauses. Maintain social credit score above minimum threshold. Comply with community standards. Participate in required civic programs. Submit to periodic inspections. Fail to comply? Contract terminates. You're evicted from the property you used to own. This model launched in Amsterdam in 2023. A company called Home Share Collective bought distressed properties from owners who couldn't afford escalating taxes and regulations. Offered lifetime tenancy. Seemed compassionate. Seemed innovative. By 2025, they controlled 32% of Amsterdam's housing, and their tenant contracts included social credit compliance clauses. Residents protested. Contract terms are voluntary, the company said. Nobody's forcing you to sign. You can keep your property if you can afford it. But they can't afford it. That's the point. The system was designed to make traditional ownership impossible. Same model appeared in Barcelona, Berlin, Paris, Vancouver, Toronto. Different company names, same ownership structure, same contract terms, same outcome. The World Economic Forum doesn't have to confiscate property. They just have to make ownership unsustainable, then offer an alternative. And people accept it, gratefully, because it feels like rescue. But you're not being rescued. You're being domesticated. And once the majority of people are tenants instead of owners, the leverage shifts completely. Because tenants can be controlled through contract terms, And those terms can change. And there's nothing you can do about it except leave. But leave to where? When the same system exists everywhere? 15-minute cities aren't about convenience. They're about containment. The infrastructure I showed you in Part 1, the smart cameras, the license plate readers, the traffic control systems, that hardware creates the foundation for movement restriction zones. But the real genius of the system is that they don't restrict movement through force. They restrict it through cost and social credit. Here's how it works in practice. Your digital ID connects to your vehicle registration. Your vehicle connects to the smart traffic network. Every trip you take gets logged. Distance, time, route, destination. Initially, no restrictions, just data collection. The system learns your patterns, establishes your baseline, determines your home zone. Then, pricing appears. Congestion charges for crossing zone boundaries. Small at first, $1, $2, barely noticeable. But the charges escalate. Based on time of day, based on frequency, based on your social credit score. High score, reduced fees. Low score, increased fees. Eventually, prohibitive fees. Can't afford to cross zones? That's okay. Everything you need is within your 15-minute radius. Grocery stores, healthcare, employment, entertainment. All carefully distributed, all accessible, all monitored. And if you try to leave too often, if you cross boundaries too frequently, your social credit score drops, which increases your costs, which makes leaving even harder. Positive feedback loop. Self-reinforcing cage. The system appears free, you can go anywhere, but economic friction creates de facto restrictions, and most people self-regulate. They stop leaving their zone because it's too expensive, too much hassle, too much impact on their score. Oxford's traffic filter proposal in 2022 was the beta test. Public rejected it. Too overt, too obviously restrictive. So they revised the approach. Make it economic instead of legal. Make it voluntary instead of mandatory. Make people choose their own cage. Bologna, Italy implemented Zona Trenta in January 2024. 30-kilometer-per-hour speed limits throughout most of the city. Traffic cameras everywhere. Automated enforcement. Heavy fines for violations. Residents complained initially, but within 6 months, driving patterns changed. People stopped using cars for short trips, stayed local, modified behavior to avoid fines. The system worked perfectly. Not through force, through friction. That's the model. That's what scales globally. Economic friction, creating behavioral modification, creating voluntary compliance. And the 15-minute radius isn't arbitrary. It's psychologically calculated. Small enough to restrict movement, large enough to prevent immediate rebellion. The perfect size for a comfortable cage. Digital ID systems aren't just convenient authentication. They're persistent surveillance infrastructure. Every action connected to your identity, every transaction, every movement, every communication, every purchase, every website visited, every message sent, all linked, all logged, all analyzed. The European Union's Digital Wallet initiative requires member states to ensure interoperability. That means your ID works across all services, all platforms, all countries. Sounds convenient. Single sign-on for everything. No more passwords. No more multiple accounts. But interoperability means interconnection. And interconnection means total data integration. And total data integration means comprehensive surveillance. Your health records connect to your financial records, connect to your movement data, Connect to your communication logs. Connect to your social media activity. Connect to your employment history. Connect to your purchasing patterns. The AI sees everything, analyzes everything, predicts everything. And here's what the synthesis documentation revealed. Here's the part that made my hands shake. The system doesn't just track current behavior, it predicts future behavior, assigns risk scores, identifies potential non-compliance before it happens. Pre-crime. Not science fiction, real, operational. The algorithm analyzes patterns, spending habits suggesting financial stress, social connections indicating radicalization risk, movement patterns showing deviation from norm, communication content flagged for concerning language. And based on this analysis, the system generates risk scores: risk of non-compliance, risk of dissent, risk of disruption. High-risk scores trigger interventions. Automatic interventions, without human review. Your account gets flagged for additional monitoring. Your transaction limits get reduced. Your movement costs increase. Your social credit score drops. Your employment opportunities narrow. All automatically. All because an algorithm predicted you might become a problem. China's social credit system provides the operational blueprint. Launched in 2014, fully implemented by 2020. Over 1 billion people now rated and ranked by algorithmic assessment. Low scores restrict access to flights, trains, hotels, schools, employment, everything. And the score updates in real time, based on behavior, based on associations, based on consumption, based on compliance. The system is live, it's working, and it's being exported. The European Union's AI Act, passed in May 2024, includes provisions for automated decision-making systems for public services. That's bureaucratic language for algorithmic control. The United States doesn't have federal social credit yet, but private companies are building parallel systems: credit scores, insurance risk scores, employment background checks, tenant screening algorithms, all separate currently, but the infrastructure for integration exists. The APIs are compatible, the data formats are standardized, and the synthesis documentation showed integration protocols, scheduled for activation in March. Once digital ID becomes mandatory for all transactions, and that's the trajectory we're on, there's no opting out, no private life, no anonymous action, no escape from the algorithm's judgment. Your identity becomes your shackle. Cash elimination isn't incidental. It's essential. Because physical currency is the last exit, the last way to transact outside the system, the last form of private economic activity. Once cash is gone, every transaction requires digital infrastructure, requires authentication, requires network access, requires compliance. No cash means no black markets, no underground economy, no untraceable transactions, no economic privacy. The shift is already happening, faster than most people realize. Sweden's Riksbank predicts complete cash elimination by 2030, but their internal documents, leaked in December 2025, show accelerated timeline. 2027 now, just 12 months away. The European Central Bank's digital euro pilot includes provisions for cash equivalency features. Sounds like they're maintaining cash-like properties in the digital system. But read the technical specs. Cash equivalency doesn't mean anonymity. It means user-friendly interface with regulatory compliance integration. Translation: looks like cash, tracks like surveillance.
India already demonetized 86% of its physical currency overnight in November 2016, called it an anti-corruption measure, caused chaos, destroyed small businesses, forced digital adoption.
That's the playbook. Create a crisis, offer a digital solution, make physical currency scarce or illegal, force the transition. And the synthesis documentation revealed the trigger mechanism for the United States. A manufactured banking crisis, scheduled for late February or early March 2026. Several regional banks experiencing liquidity challenges, runs on deposits, system instability. The Federal Reserve responds with emergency measures, temporary withdrawal limits, temporary branch closures, temporary restrictions on cash access. But temporary becomes permanent. Because during the crisis, they introduced the Fed's digital dollar as the stable alternative. Safe, secure, insured, accessible. Better than vulnerable cash. And in the chaos, people accept it, grateful for the solution, relieved to have access to their money again. Except it's not their money anymore. It's programmable currency in a surveillance database controlled by the Federal Reserve and integrated with every other system I've described. The crisis is the catalyst. The solution is the trap. And according to the timeline in the documents, we're 6 to 8 weeks away. So now you see how the pieces connect. Programmable digital currency enforces compliance through economic restriction. Property converted to tenancy with behavior-based contract terms enforces compliance through housing insecurity. Movement restriction infrastructure enforces compliance through economic friction and physical monitoring. Digital identity systems enforce compliance through comprehensive surveillance and algorithmic prediction. Cash elimination removes the escape hatch and forces participation in the digital control grid. 5 systems, 1 integrated mechanism, all activating together. The synthesis. And it's not theoretical. It's not speculation. It's documented. It's funded. It's built. It's tested. It's ready. March 15th, 2026. Less than 60 days from now. That's when the BIS document scheduled full protocol activation. That's when the regional banking crisis triggers the emergency response. That's when digital currency becomes the only option. That's when the cage locks. And most people won't even notice, because each component seems reasonable in isolation. Convenient, safer, more efficient, modern, progressive. But together they create total control. I've been sitting with this information for 13 days now, since that flash drive arrived, since the files got wiped, since the warning appeared. And I keep asking myself the same question. Why me? Why send this to someone making YouTube videos? Why not a major journalist? Why not a whistleblower platform? Why not someone with actual power? And I think I know the answer. Because power is compromised. Mainstream journalists work for corporations owned by the same investment funds implementing this system. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. They own the media. They own the banks. They own the property management firms. They own the technology companies. You think the New York Times is going to publish an expose about their own shareholders' agenda? Whistleblower platforms get monitored, get infiltrated, get compromised. Edward Snowden had to flee to Russia. Julian Assange sat in prison for years. Chelsea Manning served 7 years. Reality Winner got 5 years for leaking a single document. The system punishes whistleblowers, makes examples of them, ensures others stay silent. But YouTube? YouTube is noise.
Millions of hours uploaded every day, conspiracy theories everywhere, most of it nonsense, most of it discredited, most of it ignored. I'm camouflage, I'm deniable, I'm dismissible, which means I can say things that mainstream voices can't.
I can show you things that corporate media won't. I can connect dots that official channels deliberately obscure. Not because I'm brave, but because I'm invisible, beneath notice, until I'm not. That warning wasn't random. Someone is watching. Someone cares what I say. Someone has the capability to remotely wipe air-gapped devices, which means this matters. This threatens them. This might actually make a difference. They deleted the flash drive, but they can't delete paper. I'm holding 62 pages right now, printed before the wipe. Technical documentation, deployment schedules, system architecture diagrams. Page 17 shows the Synthesis 1 AI framework. Distributed processing nodes across 32 countries. Processing capacity, 850 petaflops. That's 850 quadrillion calculations per second. More computing power than the top 10 supercomputers combined just 5 years ago. And it's analyzing behavioral data from 4 billion people. In real time, the system identifies patterns humans can't see, predicts behaviors before they happen, recommends interventions automatically. Page 23 lists the data inputs: transaction records, movement logs, communication metadata, health records, social media activity, search history, biometric data, employment records, educational records, criminal records. Everything. Page 31 shows the intervention protocols, escalating responses based on risk scores. First level, increased monitoring. Second level, economic restrictions. Third level, access denial. Fourth level, automated referral to human authorities. Fourth level is concerning, because it means the system can't just restrict your access to money and services. It can flag you for investigation, for detention, for intervention by state security forces. All automatically, all based on algorithmic prediction, all without due process. Page 47 contains the deployment timeline. Infrastructure activation, March 15th. Public announcement, March 18th. Legacy system decommission, April 30th. 6 weeks. That's the window. And page 59. Page 59 is the one that keeps me awake. It shows the compliance projection models. The AI's predictions for how many people will resist, how many will comply immediately, how many will need intervention. The model predicts 78% immediate compliance. People accept the system because it seems convenient, because the crisis scared them, because they trust authorities. Predicts 15% gradual compliance. People resist initially, but adapt as economic pressure increases, as social isolation grows, as alternatives disappear. Predicts 7% persistent non-compliance. People who refuse regardless of pressure, who try to live outside the system, who actively resist. 7%. That's roughly 550 million people globally. The model calls them irreconcilable elements, and the document includes management protocols for irreconcilable elements. Protocols I won't detail here. Protocols that should terrify anyone who understands history. Because 7% isn't a small problem for a total control system. 7% is enough to break the system if they organize, if they resist effectively, if they expose the mechanism to the majority, which is why the system includes those management protocols.
why the intervention escalation goes to level 4, why they've planned for this. They know resistance is coming. They've calculated its size. They've prepared their response. The question is, which group are you in? Look, I know how this sounds. I know how crazy this seems. World-spanning conspiracy, AI-powered control grid, coordinated implementation across dozens of countries. Sounds like science fiction. Sounds like paranoid delusion. And maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe I've connected dots that shouldn't be connected. Maybe these are just coincidental policy changes. Maybe the timeline is accidental. But what if I'm right? What if the infrastructure is exactly what it appears to be? What if the coordination is real? What if March 15th is the activation date? Then we have 46 days. 46 days before the cage locks. 46 days before the system goes live. 46 days to make a choice. Comply, resist, or pretend you didn't notice. Most people will choose option 3. Will keep scrolling, keep consuming, keep trusting, keep believing the official narrative, keep thinking someone else will fix this. But someone else isn't coming. There is no cavalry. There is no secret good guy organization working behind the scenes to save us. There's just us. People who noticed. People who understand. People who give a damn about freedom. And freedom isn't free. Never has been. Every generation faces the choice: submit or resist. Safety or sovereignty. Comfort or liberty. Our generation thought we were past that. Thought freedom was guaranteed. Thought the battles were already won. We were wrong. The battle is here, now, and most people don't even know they're in it. So here's what I'm asking you to do. First, share this video. I know, everyone says share every video, but this is different. This is time-sensitive. This is urgent. The algorithm will suppress it. YouTube might age-restrict it, might demonetize it, might remove it entirely. I'm expecting that. I'm prepared for that. But they can't delete it if enough people download it, if enough people re-upload it, if enough people spread it across platforms they don't control. Download this video. Re-upload to alternative platforms, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, wherever. Make it redundant. Make it impossible to erase. Second, document what you see in your city. Those smart streetlights I mentioned, the traffic cameras, the infrastructure changes. The banking changes, the policy changes. Take photos, take notes, build evidence. Because when enough people document the same patterns in different cities, the pattern becomes undeniable. Third, talk to people, real people, face to face. Not online where algorithms can suppress the conversation, but in person, at dinner, at work, with family, with friends. Most people have noticed something weird, some change, some new restriction, some technological creep that feels off. But they haven't connected it to the larger pattern. Help them connect it. Show them this video. Walk them through the timeline. Let them see the coordination. You don't have to convince everyone. You just have to convince enough people that the 7% becomes 15%, that 15 becomes 25, that the compliance projections fail, because the system depends on compliance, on acceptance, on most people going along because resistance seems futile. But resistance isn't futile. It's essential. And it's possible. Fourth, prepare. Practically, physically. If digital currency becomes mandatory, Have alternatives ready. Barter networks, local communities, mutual aid systems, ways to transact outside the grid. If movement gets restricted, know your options, know the boundaries, know the bypass routes, know the costs. If property becomes tenancy, understand the contracts, document everything, know your rights, organize with other tenants. If cash disappears, have physical stores of value, things that can't be deleted by algorithm, things that hold worth in any system. I'm not saying go off-grid tomorrow. I'm not saying quit your job and move to the woods. I'm saying prepare for the possibility that the system I've described is exactly what it appears to be. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. That's not paranoia. That's prudence. I don't know what happens after I publish this. I don't know if that warning was serious. I don't know if someone shows up at my door. I don't know if my accounts get restricted. I don't know if this channel disappears. But I know this matters. I know someone went to extraordinary risk to get this information out. I know they trusted me to do something with it. And I know I can't stay silent. My wife thinks I'm crazy. Maybe I am. She wants me to delete this, go back to safe content, stop poking the bear. But I can't, because I have kids. And the system I've described, if it goes live, if it becomes permanent, they'll grow up in a cage, a comfortable cage, a sophisticated cage, but a cage nonetheless. And I won't do that to them. I won't look them in the eye 20 years from now and say I knew this was coming and did nothing. So I'm publishing this. I'm taking the risk. I'm accepting the consequences. Because truth matters. Because freedom matters. Because the future matters. And because 7% is enough. 7% who refuse to comply, who resist the system, who maintain humanity in the face of algorithmic control. I'd rather be in that 7% and lose than in the 93% and win. At least I'll know I tried. It's 11:43 p.m., January 15th, 2026. I'm uploading this in exactly 17 minutes. The printed documentation sits in my desk drawer. 62 pages. Physical evidence. If something happens to me, if this channel disappears, if I disappear, someone will find it. Someone will continue. Someone will make sure this information survives. Because truth is resilient. Information wants to be free. And people want to be free. The system they're building depends on secrecy, on ignorance, on people not understanding what's happening until it's too late. But you understand now. You've seen the pattern. You've seen the timeline. You've seen the evidence. You can't unsee it. You can't unknow it. You can't pretend you didn't notice. So the question is, what do you do with that knowledge? Do you share it? Do you act on it? Do you prepare? Do you resist? Or do you close this video, go back to Netflix, and hope someone else handles it? The choice is yours. I can't make it for you. But I know this. March 15th is coming. The system is ready. The infrastructure is live. The timeline is active. 46 days. What are you going to do with those 46 days?